The Notes section of FileMaster is by far the best in the industry. Never before has there been a software that allows the user to create a file having unlimited notes, unlimited conversations, unlimited tasks, all searchable, sortable, and archivable like FileMaster. This golden formula is what makes FileMaster awesome. It takes a filing program and turns it into a project manager, a research assistant, a contact manager, a CRM, an asset manager, a document manager, and so much more. Our goal was to create a platform that enables the user to have the freedom to create unlimited notes, but most importantly, to be able to find those notes next week, next month, or even next year. For this to be possible, many critical things had to be present. Let's take a look. This is the portal. And because we wanted it to be easy to use for anyone, we follow the same format from notes, conversations, and tasks with very few changes. You also see we give you a count of the notes that are in the portal. Now down here, you can see 3 are active and 0 are archived. Let's just go ahead and archive one here. So now we have 2 active notes and 1 archived, but you can see we have 3 total notes here. And this is very helpful when you start having files that have dozens and dozens of notes. You always need to be able to see, without digging through a lot of notes, what you have archived and what are active. Another important feature is the fact that the search field searches all the notes within that particular section. So even if it's archived, so long as you have named that note with something that makes sense and given it some keywords, you'll always be able to find the note at any time. Let's look at our archived note. And this is just a demo note, but let's just put a keyword in it, frog. Now let's go back to active. Of course, it doesn't show up because we archived it, but if we do a search here, guess what pops up? Our frog. Okay, so this is powerful. This is what we've always needed in business. This is what we've always needed for research, for product development, anything you can imagine. Why? Because we need to keep our notes fresh. I don't want to look at 100 notes every time I go to a file. I only want to look at my notes that are current and relevant to what I need. But I must also have easy access to archive notes, so I don't have to go digging for them when or if I do need them. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. We happen to be kitchen remodelers, so we have a file for our customer Jack Jones, and we have some notes for his remodel. Notice how neat the notes are, how easy they are to read. We've got our initial meeting and some version 5 notes. By the way, in kitchen remodeling, you always have multiple versions of a kitchen as you're going through the design stage and discovery stage. So we always put a V1, V2, V3, and so forth in the beginning because all the rest of it is pretty similar. So these are our version 5. This is where we're at on the remodel. But notice what happens, because these are our active notes. Notice what happens when I select all. Wow. That's a lot of notes. Who wants to read through all of that? You can see we've got all of our version 1 plans, version 2, version 3. These are no longer relevant. So why look at them? But check this out. Remember our search? Suppose I wanted to go back and look at all the V3 stuff. How easy was that? And look, during the sales process, the customers will always be adding things in, like for instance, glass. Aha, version 4 is where they added the glass. Or the island. Looks like version 3. I can track the granite that they ordered, the types of cabinets they ordered, the color. Everything about this remodel I can find years from now. Do you see how powerful this is? This is how we keep our notes fresh and relevant all the time. Now, as I just mentioned, everything in the 3 tabs is similar. So if you want to create a new note, you click Add New, and another note pops up, and you simply give it a title. Likewise, if you're in conversations, you do the same thing. And if you're in tasks, Add New creates a new task. Another great feature in the portal is this expand button. We're not going to really need it here because there's only 2 notes, but let's go to a file that's got lots of notes. This is a software we use, and as you can see, we have a ton of notes. And they're all current, so we don't want to archive them. And we can scroll up and look at it here. But sometimes when you have a file that's got a ton of notes, click this expand button, and now you have a whole window just for your notes. And you can do all kinds of things here. You can sort them and title them just like you can in the other, but to me it just makes it a lot easier to be able to see all your notes on one page. And when you're done, you go back and you're right back where you left off. Again, that's the expand button. It works for everything, conversations, tasks, you name it. A couple of other things: when you create a new note, the date by default is automatic, which is great because it gives you a date stamp on everything you create. So a lot of times when I'm on a file on a product and I order the product, I just create a new note saying ordered, and the date's already there. Nice way of tracking it. Another incredible feature is the ability to rate and sort notes. Of course, in the last video, we showed you how to rate entire files, but you can also rate individual notes as well, which is extremely useful. For example, we sometimes download music tracks and stock photography. And because there's lots of places to get stock photography and music clips, we have several files here, and we've rated those files. And as you can see, all of these get a 5-star rating. Let me look at Premium Beat. This is just for music. As you can see in our keywords, we put stock music. And here we've got our individual tracks. Now, before FileMaster, those tracks were scattered all over our computer in different files, depending on what project we were working on. But now, everything's in FileMaster, and as you can see in the keywords, we've got our project name over here, like FileMaster. And in the next video, we'll show you that we've actually got the track in FileMaster so we can preview it at any time. But what I want to show you now is the sorting and rating. By default, the notes are sorted by date. So you can see the earliest to the latest. If we change this to the 31st, it moves to the top of the list. However, if we take How to Fly and say make that a 5-star, it's going to pop to the top. So the rating overrides the default sort function, which is the date, and the sort function overrides everything. So I can make the last summit 1, and it is now in the first position and will remain there. No matter what we do, it will remain in number 1. Which is great because you can override everything by sort function, because a lot of times you have highly rated files, but for whatever reason they don't need to be at the top. So it's your choice. So now let's open a note. To open any note, just click View right here. And along the top, you'll see some familiar things. You'll see the title of the note here, the keywords of the note, even the date the note was created, just like we did in the portal. But we've also added a few additional fields like website and email address. Now remember, we had those on the main data page for the entire file right over here. But what we have found is the individual notes themselves benefit greatly if they have these additional fields available. And you'll use them a lot, as is the case for our ink file. Whenever we run out of ink for our printer, we can open up the file. We really don't have a whole lot of information here, but you see our different printers. And if I click on one of these, you'll see all the information we have on our printer, but look right here. This is the address that we want to go to, so when it's time to order, we just click this icon, and up pops the page where we can place our order in a few seconds. Very, very handy. You'll use it all the time. While I'm on the subject, the icon, the world icon, does open up the browser just like we just did. In the email, just like on the main data page, it'll make a copy of it so you can enter it into your email editor. And we'll come back to the expiration date and message in a minute. Let's go back to our sample files. And here we are back at our test note. And along the edge here, you see we have 6 containers that we can put images into. We can also put PDFs. We can even put executable docs in here, such as spreadsheets, Word files, CAD files. Just about any file can go in here with few exceptions. Clicking on one of the containers brings it into full view here. Click on another one, same thing. And to get back to our note text, notice this right here, note text, click here to view. Click on that, and that brings the text back into focus. If you've inserted an image in the container, you'll see the image. Let's go back over here to our main file. Click on the second note, and you can see a PDF and also some executable docs. Clicking on the PDF opens it up in the viewer. You can scroll just by using your mouse. And if you click on an executable doc, because it's not an image, it just shows you the icon and not the image. Now let's take a look at these 4 buttons here. We'll scroll down to a new container. And if you want to insert a document or an image in here, you've got a couple of choices. Here's just a file tree from our computer. I can take this file and drag it into the container, which gives us our hot rod. And again, if we click it, it'll pop up in the main viewing window. If we click on the trash can, it obviously deletes the file. And if we want to use the plus icon to enter the file, we can do that as well. We'll just go to our temporary folder, which is the exact same thing as we had over here, but now we're using the plus icon. And now we can click insert. Sometimes on smaller screens like a laptop or something, that's easier. On a larger screen, I usually just drag it in. Okay, that leaves us with two buttons, a download button and a preview button. They almost do identical things, but it just depends on your purpose. If I'm going to email something out, I'm just going to click the download button. Maybe I'll download it to my desktop. And you'll see it popped up right here on my desktop. Now I can do whatever I want with that. Notice it's still in here. No matter what I do with this file, this always stays intact. So in this case, I'm just going to throw it in the trash, which I just did. And that's the download button. The preview button does almost the same thing, but it opens it up in preview. Downloads it and opens it up in preview. So if I click this icon here, there it is in preview. But as you can see, again, it made a copy to the desktop. And again, I'm just going to throw it in the trash when I'm done. This is awesome. You're going to fall in love with this feature because whenever you open up a document or an image or anything within FileMaster, it maintains the original document right where it is. Never goes anywhere. So no matter what you do, you can delete it, edit it, do whatever you want. The original stays within FileMaster. Now, let's look at a numbers document. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of our hot rod. I rather like it. We don't need it right now. So if we click on the numbers document, it just shows the icon here. We can download it, which is kind of an obvious thing, but I'm going to use the preview because it's going to open it up and make a copy on our desktop. So let's click that. It opens it up in numbers. Okay. And over here, way up here to the right, you can see the proposal. It made a copy of it and put it right there on the desktop. So let's just make a change to our proposal. We'll put $500 in here and we'll save it. And then we'll close it. Now this one, let's open it up from the desktop, has our $500 change. So if we wanted to drag the new version in, we've got two choices. We can drag it right over the top of this one and replace it, or drag it right here as a new version. It depends on what you want to do. I'm not going to do that right now because this is actually a template that we use. And I'll tell you what, FileMaster works great for templates. You can make templates out of anything because of what we're talking about. Case in point, cover page. I'll just click this right here. And up pops our template. Do with it what we'd choose. Again, it made a copy, put it right here on the desktop. And we can either delete it or edit it, save it, put it in FileMaster, whatever we like to do. Let's get rid of both of these. And that pretty well covers the 4 buttons for the documents. Scrolling. Here's a note with a lot of text. And if I want to scroll the entire page, I just hover over in this area and scroll. And that scrolls the whole page. But if I click in the text area and then scroll, I'm scrolling through the text. Same thing with PDFs and so forth. Very, very helpful. And here's another awesome feature of this page. All notes are different. Some notes are more text-based and some notes are more image-based, like what we're looking at. So you can see these 3 little layout icons we have here. You can see this one is selected. So we have the text over here and the images down the side. But if I click on this one, the note is much more about the images, which is great, just depending on what you're doing. Your text is still here. You can click in it and scroll down if you'd like. For notes that need even larger images, we have this right here, which is the larger viewer. Again, you can scroll through the different images, or from the selector right here, you can just click this and it'll bring that image into light. Let's go back to this one. It's one of the layouts I use most for my image-based notes. And what I love about this the most is the fact that when you leave and come back to that particular note, it comes back just like you left it. You don't have to click on that every single time because, again, every note is different. But if it's image-based, well, it's going to be image-based the next time I come back, so I want it to be just like I left off. So let's go back, click on this again, and voila, we're right back where we left off. Or I can go up here and choose the mostly text option, and it'll come back to that one as well. And finally, let's look at our expiration date and message. And this is so incredibly helpful. You can set an expiration date and a message for any note. Let's say you have a certification or a document that expires next year. Just set the date, give it a short message so you know what it is when you see it in the alerts. And in our case, for this example, let's go ahead and set a date for today and a message saying, just a test, exclamation point. Now, let's go home and look. We have one task and 3 alerts. Now, these are different notes. Okay, let's open it up. That takes you to the alerts page. You can see some tasks. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And your alerts are right down here. These are your tasks for projects. We'll talk about that. And this is the alert message that we created. This is the title of the note we were working on and the actual file that we were working on. So anytime you have an alert or a task, you see all these things. You know exactly where it is. That's the expiration date, today's date that we chose. And to view it, you just click view. Now, I could click this delete icon. It's not going to delete the note. It's just going to delete the alert and the message that goes along with it. So for now, let's click view, and it'll take us right to that particular note, which is very handy. We don't have to go find it. And you'll notice that a new button has popped up that says return to alerts. You didn't see this before, but because we came to this page from the alerts portal, it's possible that we might want to go back. So we just click this button and it takes us right back to the portal. And if we're done with this, all we do is click the X. It'll give us a pop-up and the date and the message are gone. Fantastic. You'll use this all the time to stay on top of important notes and documents that are expiring. Hugely helpful. On a side note, we taught you how to rate notes and files, but sometimes I use the stars just to stand out. You can see I'm doing a lot of videos right here, so as I'm creating videos and I have notes that pop in my head, I'll just go into each one and add the notes or maybe add some images as I'm building out. And then the one that I'm currently working on, which is the video you're listening to right now, Notes, Conversations, and Tasks, I have a little star here only so that when I come to this file, I can quickly go right to it. I don't have to actually read it, I just see it. So sometimes I just use it for that reason. Okay, let's carry on with the lesson. Conversations. Sometimes you have conversations with clients or vendors and you want to keep track of them. Because of this, we've given you a conversations tab so that you can track them all. Creating and using conversations is identical to the notes tab. But now with one click, all your important conversations are in full view. To create a conversation, just click add new, give it a title. And just like notes, everything is identical in the Conversations tab. But now you can track all your important conversations with vendors and clients. Let's move on to tasks. Having the ability to set tasks with dates and alert pop-ups turns FileMaster into a light project manager. Again, it looks a lot like the notes section. You can sort the tasks in the order of the project, which is super helpful because sometimes the start dates don't necessarily dictate the order that the task should be in, if that makes sense. So we give you the control. You can enter an allotted time so that at a glance you can see how long a certain task is going to take, which helps you in your scheduling. You can set a start date, which, by the way, is what triggers the alert because this is the date that you want to start this task. So the alert will pop up when you're supposed to start this task. A due date, obviously. And you can even assign a task to someone on your team. Let's say Jeff. Jeff Smith is someone I work with. So once I've assigned this task to Jeff, I can simply come up here to the share button. We're going to talk about that in a separate video, but real quickly. At the top of the page, these are the users that have control of this file. Right now, it's just me. I can share it with multiple people or just one particular user. Let's say Jeff Smith. We'll just click Jeff. He'll pop up here. Now, as far as the file access and the note access, two completely different things. This is the file. These are the notes down here. And for the note access, maybe I'll give him view and edit or view, edit, create, or delete, whatever I feel he needs. And when the time comes, I can just remove him altogether. Now, the one thing that's a little bit different is instead of having an archive, we have an in progress or complete. So let's create another task. We'll just call this test. And there we go. Now, if you remember on the notes, if we archived it, it disappeared. We can always get it back by looking at archive notes, but in task, you don't really want it to disappear because when you have a large project you're dealing with, it's usually very helpful to see where you've been, to know where you're going. So if you choose complete, it doesn't disappear, it just grays it out. And what's really great about this is it keeps it in its current position. Based on your sorting, you'll have all these sorted and you'll see some gray ones and black ones, and immediately you can tell what has been accomplished and what still needs to be accomplished. And if you need to, you can always delete a task if you want it out of there completely, like this. So now you understand a little bit about notes, conversations, and tasks. And these three elements within FileMaster will allow you to track things that you never thought possible. So be sure and scroll down to the bottom of the page and look at some of our sample files and some of the incredible things that you can do with FileMaster in only a few minutes. We thank you, God bless you, and happy filing.